Hello and welcome to the Everyday Adventure podcast. My name is Nicky Bass and I'm a business psychologist, army veteran and everyday adventurer. I will be sharing my conversations with some truly incredible guests who are weaving adventure into their daily lives. And I really hope that these conversations inspire you to undertake your own everyday adventures too. Hello. So I know I'm supposed to be on a break, but strangely enough, this podcast adventure keeps drawing me back in. And so I wanted to record this bonus episode for a number of reasons, not least because the person I'm speaking to, the wonderful Nicky Chisholm, many of you will be familiar, if you're regular listeners to the podcast, will know that I recorded a mini-series with Nicky and some of her wonderful supporters and people involved in the Big Swim International Women's Day swim in Brighton last year. So we did a crossover mini-series podcast and I spoke to Nicky then, but guess what? Nicky is running a similar but bigger event this year, and she is also expanding it to cover Poole as well. So if you're in the south coast of the UK, then there are more opportunities to be involved. And obviously I wanted to support Nicky as much as possible in spreading the word and letting you know that it's back and it's bigger than ever, and there are so many exciting aspects to it. So what better opportunity to bring Nicky back on the podcast? Yay! Welcome, Nicky. We're going to have a chat about the swim, but we're also going to have a bit more of a wider chat around why events like this are important, why participating in events like this are important and matter, and really thinking about this idea of comfort zones, because it's something I come back to time and time again. And also, as many of you know, this is very much the foundation of this podcast as well, why stepping outside of our comfort zone really matters. So, Nicky, welcome to the show. So lovely to have you back again.
Good morning. Oh, good evening, good afternoon. Hello, everybody. Thank you, Nicky, for having me back. It was really good fun last year, our sort of mini-series. And having me back. And we're going to talk about comfort zone and swimming, all the things I love, really. So, it's perfect opportunity to chat and spread the word and maybe inspire a few listeners out there to take little baby steps in the right direction to see how they can get involved in either the swim or something that's geographically nearer to them. There's plenty of opportunities now in the UK for swimming. It's unbelievable.
No, absolutely. And I think, Nicky and I were chatting just before I started recording. We were talking about her episode was one of the best performing episodes of last season, which is amazing. Congratulations, Nicky. And we were just talking about some of the reasons behind that. And obviously, Nicky herself, who was an absolutely wonderful guest, but also this idea that we know that swimming has really taken off. It's captured the public imagination. It is grown in terms of people's participation and particularly seemed to grab people sort of from COVID and onwards, and people have kept going. I know, living here down on the south coast, that, the sea, all times of year, all conditions, there are people out there. So it's obviously something that really resonates, and we wanted to get into sort of some of the reasons behind that. But Nicky, I think first starting off, probably best if you can just share more about the swim, more about what you're trying to do. And so if there is anyone listening who thinks, actually, that sounds exciting, I want to get involved, they can know a little bit more about it.
Okay, so the swim is on March the 8th, 2025. We have two swims this year. We have one in Brighton and one in Sandbanks in Dorset. Now, we started the year before last, we had 250 swimmers. Last year, we had 500 swimmers. And this year, I'm going for 1,000. I like a big number, and I like to get more people involved. Land and Wave, who are running the Dorset swim, they came along as partners and sponsors last year, and they walked away and went, this is blooming fabulous. We want to do this where we are. I said, yep, fine. Let's work together and make it happen. So on International Women's Day, which is March the 8th, it's a global day to celebrate women and to draw attention to policies in education, in medicine, domestic abuse, all sorts of things from government, local government, policies, campaigns, volunteer groups, basically all get involved all across the world to elevate and amplify, support and help women's issues that are still there and will be there forever. They always seem to just go on and on and on. It's the same old thing that we were struggling and talking about 20, 30 years ago. But it's a really good day. And if you can find your local activity or International Women's Day activities do go along. But I wanted to mark International Women's Day down in Brighton and get all those swimmers together. The swim is a medium, but the reason behind it is unity, collaboration, partnership, getting people together. Also, for me, it's like the fun, the shenanigans, the sparkles, the joy. When you get women together, there's definitely something unique that happens. And I've said this to a few people before. If I could bottle the noise and the sound and the fun and the energy of that event last year, we would be millionaires. It is literally like joy in a bottle. And that is what comes from getting women together. That's the fun side of it. But we do say, we do say at the beginning of it, you're here because you want to be here and you're part of the event. There are so many reasons people come along to these events, but I want everybody that comes along this year to take one sort of positive action to support women in their community. It could be, they're volunteering, they're supporting local business, there'll be mentors, there'll be volunteers, whatever. Just take one action. So if we had 1,000 women coming along to an event, then we've got 1,000 actions being taken. And think of the ripple effect. Think of the ripple over the course of the next year. If you're volunteering, you're supporting women's business. So there is a fun element to the swims. And then there is a more serious element, because I just thought it would be a wasted opportunity to have all those women there. And women are brilliant. When you get them together, there's an undeniable energy. They want to help. That's a more sort of not serious, but just take action. You're here. This is what International Women's Day is all about, taking action. And then obviously the other side for me, which is really important, is supporting surfers against sewage. All of us across the country have been, affected by it over the last year, or 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. So that is an obvious connection with a charity that is right for the swim.
Like you said, there's so many different reasons why your event and events like this are important. But I love the fact that you are combining something that's so personal, the type of activity in terms of the swimming, but also personal in terms of the motivations and the reasons behind International Women's Day and what it stands for and what it aims to do. And then I think that piece about how we expand that actually there are the people taking part in the event, but the ripple effects from that, how that then gains traction, I think is wonderful. I mean, one of the things that we had a brief chat prior to this. As you can see, I'm terribly well organized with my podcasts. I have conversations immediately before we were about to go on air. At least they're fresh in people's minds, I guess. So one of the things I was sharing with Nicky was, some of you may be regular listeners or dip into Women's Hour, BBC Women's Hour. It's one of my absolute favourite programmes, partly just because of the sheer variety of conversations and stories that are featured. I always learn something, or I'll find myself listening to something that I never would have necessarily gravitated towards before, because I don't have direct experience of it, or because it's not necessarily in my sphere of knowledge or interest. And then I'll find myself listening to something and going, oh gosh, I never knew about that, or I never knew about the impact of something like that on other people's lives. So I think it's just a wonderful program that expands your horizons and expands your perspective. But anyway, going on about Women's Hour, so just prior to Christmas, they ran a feature all around stepping outside of your comfort zones, and as part of that, they featured an interview with the food critic Grace Dent, and in an excerpt from her interview, she talked about this idea of stepping out your comfort zone in relation to eating alone in restaurants, saying that actually it's something that often women find very difficult to do, but that she finds that doing things that are uncomfortable regularly, particularly as she gets older, are absolutely vital. And this obviously really resonates with the whole theme of the Everyday Adventure podcast. I popped a comment underneath saying, I think stepping outside of our comfort zones is one of the most important acts of self-care that we can do.
Yeah.
And it received quite a lot of sort of feedback, commentary, likes, that sort of thing. The reason I mentioned this and go into a long soliloquy all about myself is because when I was listening, it suddenly struck me that one of the comments was, well, I never thought of self-care in that way. And I immediately connected, knowing I was about to have this conversation with Nicky, and thinking, actually, isn't it interesting how this growth in cold water swimming, particularly amongst women, I think can very much be defined as self-care. It's thinking about how women will prioritize it, and, you know, men as well when they go out into the water. But I think there's something about groups of women coming together, that community, that sense of achievement of doing something outside of your comfort zone that feeds you in so many ways. And I really want to discuss this with Nicky. So Nicky, I'm putting it back to you at this point and just going, you know, I'd love to know your thoughts about this idea, this relationship between self-care, but actually doing really difficult, often uncomfortable things.
This is I have to say, it's one of my favorite topics, because the self-care is definitely it's a trendy word. And for me, self-care, if I need some space, or I'm having a stressful day, I just get out. I walk, I get out. I want to be outside. I want to go for a swim. We've got a beach box sauna. I just want to be outside and doing something practical and active. It's my act of self-care. Some people's act of self-care is putting a face mask on, and meditating. That's not how I see self-care. And as I've got older, self-care has definitely changed. I've got 2 boys now that are teenagers. And so my space and my life is shifting dramatically in terms of the time that I've got for myself, the resources, the energy, and, you know, some extra money as well, so that you think things are changing. And I want to be able to feel and leverage those resources and opportunities with the self-care. And that self-care is activities and adventure and doing things. When you go down to the beach to see your friends, it is the activity, the swim, which, you know, releases the endorphins. You're in the water, but also you're chatting to your friends afterwards. You're downloading a bit of nonsense that's happened in the week. Maybe somebody tells you a tip about, oh, I've just tried this cake, here's a recipe. Or somebody says, I'm going to a pub, it's really lovely, it's got karaoke. So there is communication, there is knowledge, there is wisdom, there's a hug if you're having a really crappy day. So all these things are an act of self-care, and it's not what we would say is traditional, but it is definitely self-care, and it works for thousands and thousands. Honestly, I wish somebody somewhere must have, how many women swim? I mean, it's got to be thousands, it's got to be tens of thousands. So it is an act of self-care. Now, one of the things that we've said with the swim, if you're not a sea swimmer, coming into March and, you know, getting yourself in the water, you could probably terrify yourself for the rest of your life. And your act of, you know, female unity and, hey, this is fabulous, you'll terrify yourself, because you'll probably give yourself a heart attack. So we do say, come along and, you know, and dip your feet, or go up to your knees, or go up to your thighs, get involved. But that is your first bit of stepping outside your comfort zone. People say, you know, I don't have all the kit. You just need a swimming costume. I'm too fat. I'm too old. I'm too immobile. I haven't got the right look. I'm not thin. I've got so much cellulite. My knees hurt. I'm wobbly on the beach. And you just think, when you're in the water and you're bobbing around, there is sort of a commonality. It's like a baseline, isn't it? You're all bobbing around. You all look ridiculous because you've got neoprene hats on. You've probably got goggles on. You've got neoprene gloves on, and it is kind of like a baseline. You know, you're just bobbing around and you can just see someone's head, and that's quite weird in a sport. You don't really normally see that. So there is a real sort of we're all the same and we're all in the water. Yeah, don't come along and swim, you know, just in January. Think about, you're building up your comfort zone. So dip your feet, go along with someone, never go on your own, find a group. And all that wisdom from the group will help you sort of move yourself forward. So yes, it's out of our comfort zone, but the first week I went up to my knees, then I went up to my thighs, and I did my tummy. So it's like always in comfort zone, it's baby steps.
Yeah, I think that's so important, that this idea of you're creating a bank effectively. I mean, I talk about it as you're building your core of resilience. It's like, you know, if you go to the gym and you work on building your core up, you would take baby steps with that. You might plank for, you know, 5 seconds, then 10 seconds, then 50, you know, you work on it, but you're looking at building up this sort of muscle bank that's going to support you and stop you from getting injured and allow you to take on all of your other, you know, sporting achievements or whatever it is you want to do. And I think this sort of idea of your comfort zone is helping to build your psychological muscle bank. It's the bit that's going to help support you and allow you to embrace the world and all the opportunities in it. But absolutely, you have to sort of take it in stages, and you have to practice it regularly. And you don't want to go in and shock or terrify yourself whilst you're doing it.
I think practice it's really good. It's like anything. You practice. People see people that have climbed Mount Everest or they're rowing the Atlantic. No one got out of bed day one and decided to do that day two. That's taken 20 years or 30 years. It takes a long time. It's practice. It's falling down and getting back up. Every time you do something outside of your comfort zone, you've got the physical experience, the mental experience, the sort of maybe geographical experience, what's going on. You're developing the kit. So every time you're building a multifaceted resilience and knowledge to then take the next step. So if you're doing 1 kilometer run, next time you could do 1.5 or 2. And every time you do something, you're banking that, and that helps you move forward next time. Over the years, I've had like cold sandwiches on like 10-mile hikes. And now I've moved on to, I found these fabulous, you've probably had these, expedition army food. And you shake something and it just steams up and it gets hot.
Yes. Yeah. And I think, there's so much brilliant stuff out there. I was chatting, that was completely digressing, but I was chatting to my husband this morning. I think about my lowest point on exercise ever was when I was so tired that I actually ate a ration pack completely cold, and it was a treacle pudding, and it was basically a lump of lard.
Did it work?
Well, it got me through a 10K insertion mark, but yeah, oh my God, I still remember the misery that was involved in biting into that. So sorry, you just triggered a memory.
You try stuff, don't you? So again, you try stuff. So if I'm going on a walk around the block, or you take water. But for me, if you're doing like a 10-hour hike and you're in the middle of nowhere, then those ration packs. Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, I had a curry in the middle of nowhere. I'll tell you what, it's the best curry I've ever had in my life. It was amazing. So, you're just developing everything about that. And so you've got all the physical responses, the mental responses, you're building the resilience, and you're building, I can do that. It's like, I can do that. So if I can do 5K, why can't I do 8K? Why can't I do 10K? I think it's so important, because I think definitely for women of our age, now I'm getting a bit of space and I'm thinking, I'm going to flap my wings. What am I going to do? And the growth in that industry, in the adventure sector and the travel sector for women, it is massive. There's a lot of women now thinking, empty nesters, menopausal, perimenopausal, and maybe they're divorcees, and they're thinking, it's my time now. Where am I going to go? And it's comfort zone. You're going to have to step out of it and release your inner fabulousness.
And like you said, it's, in a way, it's about how do you get to taking those steps? And I guess that's partly what you're doing with the swim. In a way, is you're creating a safe space for women to, even if they don't come and try the swim, to come and try the community, to try and come and be involved in an event, which I think for some women, actually, the idea of being involved in a big event itself is probably uncomfortable as is, without even adding in, the swimming part might be the easy part, but actually being surrounded by lots of other people and actually pushing your comfort zone, going, I'm going to do this as a part of an event, is pretty amazing too. I'm just going to step and turn up and see what happens. And I think that's where we talk about this idea of how we keep ourselves open to possibilities, how we take care of the person that we could potentially be, and the experiences we can potentially have, and how we get to that space, which is why I think what the sort of events these events that you're running are so vital.
I think you're right with if you just take a baby step, you're opening the door to future possibilities. And you'll see a lot of people that have started the swimming, they've started a dip. So they dip in for like 5, sometimes you go in and you scream, you're not even in for a minute. So you're doing a scream and you're going in, and then you might stay in for like 2 minutes or 4 minutes or 5 minutes. And then somebody says, oh, there's a 1K swim. Should we train for that? So then you start training. There's like an evolution of swimming. So I'm just warning anyone out there, you just never know where you could end up. So there's an evolution. So then you think, okay, I'm going to do a 1K event. Then I might do a 5K event. And then there's like a fun event. And then some people get competitive and they want to do triathlons. There are so many events now through charities where you can swim for a charity in amazing places. So I know, myself and some friends did the Bantham swoosh And it's amazing as the tide turns down in, was it Cornwall or Devon? I forget. And it pushes you along and it's amazing. So you've been in the water for like blimmin' 2.5 hours and you're sort of getting tired, but the tide comes in and it swooshes you along. So there you are being swooshed along with like 1,000 other women. And it's like ridiculous and fun and bonkers. And you can feel your soul filling up from the inside out. So, you know, from one little dip, as your confidence grows and your knowledge and your experience, you could think, what can I do next? You know, or for example, you come along and take part in the swim. So there is an evolution, and that evolution could be in any sport. But if you just give yourself the time to just, it's that first step, isn't it? I'm scared because I don't want to come along and be on my own. So, you know, if you can bring a buddy, because it is scary. You go into a group of women and they all seem like they're chatting and then you feel like you're on your own. We've all been there and it makes you feel a little bit sad, but it's like, and also you can open conversations. If you've got like a box of flapjacks, you say, would anyone like one? And then you're opening the conversation and some, you know, and then you come another time and they say, oh, you were here last week. It's lovely to see you. It is hard. I get it, but you've just got to give it a go.
And I love what you said there about how this idea that actually when you do, and sometimes, like you said, it's going through those uncomfortable bits, which may not just be about the activity, but about a group of people that you don't know and you're having to find ways to connect with. And I think actually that's one of often the biggest thing that puts people off taking up something new is I don't know these people. What if I get rejected? You know,
sad thinking about that.
But it's so normal because the biggest driver of human behavior is shame. You know, it's our fear of shame. And it causes us to avoid so many situations and so normal. And I think this is the point. It's so normal to feel like that. It's so, you know, we think, oh, there's something wrong with me or I can't do this or whatever. But actually, that's how we're designed because we only evolved as humans by being parts of groups in the end. So, you know, we're always looking to not be seen as apart from the group, and it prevents us from taking those first steps. So like you said, but absolutely, when you stick with it, when you push through that discomfort, there's so much joy and possibility that's out there. And I love the way you use joy.
I think I love that joy and possibility. I worked with a sports psychologist, and one of the things that I feel so terrified. I'm on the start line of, like, for example, the Green and a Half Marathon. I remember being on the start line. It's the furthest north I've ever been. It's the coldest I've ever been. I never left my kids for that long, and I literally had tears running down my cheeks thinking, Nicky, you idiot, what are you doing? And when I look back, there are so many times in my life that I've said, Nicky, you idiot, what are you doing? I always wonder how I get into these situations. But the sports psychologist, she said, reframe that terror in your body. And I think this is, if you're out there and you're listening to this, so you've got that energy and that adrenaline, it's racing around your body and it's making you feel, Jesus, I'm just terrified. I really am going to lose it. Like, you know, panic mode is going to set in. And she said, pretend you're a sports car and you're on the start line and you're revving up your internal engines. So the physiological responses are coming, the physical and mental responses are coming, and you're a sports car and you're going vroom, 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 and you're channeling that adrenaline into like a fuel. So you're channeling the adrenaline for something negative and you're turning it into energy and fuel for you as the sports car. I'm a visual learner, so I need to have sports car in my head. So I'm going vroom, 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 and the adrenaline's going into the engine. It's ready to start. So you're turning that negative response into, this is fabulous. My body is responding in a positive way to a difficult situation, and I'm going to use that to propel me forward into doing a good thing. So when you feel that panic, think, no, this is good. My body's responding in a positive way. So you're reframing something that is negative into something positive. Now, obviously that takes practice, but I've used it so many times now. I just think, Nicky, you're a sports car or a camper van, whatever it is, an old camper van, whatever it is, just use it.
spluttering along. Oh no.
Yes, spluttering.
Oh, I absolutely love that. I can just, I'm quite a visual person as well. So I just love this idea of standing there. And I'm just picturing myself, times I've been in similar sort of situations, just standing going, vroom, vroom. Right, I'm revving up. This is where I'm going.
But it's so ridiculous.
Using it. Oh no, it's so wonderful though. And I love the fact that it is ridiculous, because also it allows you to laugh at yourself and go, okay, what am I afraid of right now? How do I take this and channel this and use it for something positive to propel me forward? And as you said, it takes practice. It's not something that automatically will happen, but that the more you can think in those lines, that absolutely the more things become possible as well.
Oh, there was one more quick thing. So if you're out there, and the sports psychologist, and she said, the other thing is, wherever you are, if you're having a meltdown or a moment, or you're just about to lose it, she said, imagine you're walking forward and you see a circle on the floor. So whatever your color is, so obviously mine was pink. So I see an imaginary pink circle on the floor. And in that circle is energy, love, heat, wisdom, experience. And as you step into that circle, like you suck it all up. So it's kind of like a boost or a power. It's like a power boost. And it's just, it's a visual and mental, because I was running along and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to get to my pink circle. I'm struggling now. And it was just a way of tricking your brain into, okay, I've got a boost coming, and it works. And again, it takes lots of practice. But if you're out there, ladies and gents, get your circle on the floor and power up as you run through it. There we go.
That's just so amazing. I'm literally leaving this conversation as a sort of Power Ranger sports card.
I know, sorry, we've gone off tangent, but use those, drawing it back to comfort zone. Every athlete, every adventurer, they have those moments, and it's okay to have those moments, but try and find the tools. Bring a friend with you, use these things that we've just discussed, these sort of sports psychologist things. And honestly, I've seen women so many times. I love watching them blossom. Oh my God, it's like such a pleasure. And they're nervous, and you watch women blossom, and it's just such a beautiful thing to see. And the smile on their face, and the smile in their eyes, and you can see the joy in their body. Just give yourself a chance. You'd be so surprised what can happen.
And that growth and belief of, I can do this, I can do hard things, is just wonderful.
I can do hard things, yes.
Nicky, we're running out of time.
I'm sorry.
I think there are so many wonderful things that you said that I want to pick up on and talk about. But I think I would just love you to give the opportunity. So if people are listening to this and they think, I'd love to be part of this event in any way, shape, or form, where do they go? What do they do?
Okay, so if you would like to get involved in the Big Swim for International Women's Day on Saturday, the 8th of March, go on to pinknicky.com, and on the homepage, you'll have a little button which will direct you to the tickets. And just get involved. They go really, 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 really quickly. And just sign up, get involved, turn up on the day. The rule is the sparklier, that isn't even a word, the sparkly and more colourful, the better. Bring food, bring things to share, bring hot coffee or whatever for afterwards, and just be involved in something. And I promise you, it will make your heart sing, and you will feel that joy, and you'll take it away with you. And then you're going to think, what am I going to do next? That is what I'm all about.
Amazing. So be aware of the possibilities of this event. Nicky, thank you so much. Obviously, we'll pop all of those links in the show notes so people can go and find the event. They can find where to book and all of those, and all of the wonderful advice I know you share around this as well, and they can follow you and get that. I think all that remains for me to say is just very best wishes for the event. I'm sure it will be absolutely as fabulous and sparkly as the previous years, if not sparklier, because I am going to use that word.
Sparklier. Sorry, that's a terrible word.
Sparkliest. Sparkliest event so far. And yeah, please, I'm absolutely encouraging anyone who's listening to this, if you want to be involved, or you want to inspire others to take part as well, please do reach out to Nicky or get in touch.
Thank you.
You take care. Bye.